Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Micah Let's Plays, and guess who I am? I'm Micah, cause who else would I be? Guys, I am so excited for today's gamer discussion. We're going to be talking about Gotham Knights. Oh my god, I am so excited about this game, but before I jump into all my juicy content, you know I've made an intro, and it's just for you. Wink.
Now loading Micah's Let's Play.
Okay, guys, on August 22nd, DC's fandom did a huge event online. It was so much fun. They dropped a whole bunch of trailers. Thumbnails are here, so you can go watch it for yourself of all my trailer reactions. Link will be in the video description. And guys, they dropped the trailer for Gotham Knights, the video game, and it looks so good, first and foremost. And I am so excited about this game. Now, massive caveat, as I said in my trailer reaction, I am not a Batman fan. I've never cared for Batman. He's been a huge part of the DC universe. He's one of the largest superheroes, or the most popular superhero in the world. I think only second to Spider-Man, if not Superman. And I just never really cared for his character. Not that I dislike his character, I just never cared for him. Now, who I do like is the Bat family. And yes, that is why I'm so excited about this game, because this game features the Bat family, and I am so excited. So now when we saw the trailer, the 7-minute footage, we got to see the creative director, Mr. Patrick Redding, as he kind of talked about Batgirl as she was going around the city, and he said it was like I think it was like over an hour or so into her gameplay already, so that means she's already been able to upgrade and all that other stuff. The cool thing that I really liked that you got to see in the trailer, as she was driving through Gotham City on the Bat cycle, you were seeing cars drive around, you was seeing the explosions happen, and it was making the city, Gotham City, seem like it was coming to life, and that was something I was so impressed with. Then from there, you saw her jump off the bike, and she was on top of one of the buildings as she was looking across the street, I believe at a building across the street. I don't know if it was the GCPD or the Gotham City Museum, but from there, you saw Robin blink into existence. And what was so cool is that Patrick was talking about how Robin uses the Justice League satellite system to teleport around the city. And I thought that was a nice little touch to add on to why Robin can teleport. And I think that was really, really cool. And when I discovered that this Robin was Tim Drake, I was even more excited because I love Tim Drake. He's one of my favorite Batman characters. So from there, you get to see Batgirl and Robin on the streets, kicking butt, taking names. And there was a few things that I noticed about how the game was set up, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the game's mechanics. But I really liked what I was seeing. As her and Robin were fighting, you saw some old tricks from Batman, how Batman would drop down and snatch people up, but it also showed she had her own skills and tricks as well, and so did Robin. So when I was seeing this, I was like, wow, this looks so amazing. And then you see how they were, going inside I believe the building, and you see the cutscene where the ice breaks and they fall inside, and I love how Barbara was like, if anyone asks, I meant to do that. And I was like, that's right, girl. Nobody needs to know your faux pas. It's between us and the floorboards. You know how we do. But the other thing that I liked how you got to see that the characters can split off. And, the screen went split screen. So Robin went his way, Barbara went her way. And you got to see their different playstyles. You got to see that, Batgirl was a little bit more direct and Robin was a little bit more stealthy. And I really like this. And I like the tag team element that they threw in there. And I was like, I really like that. And I'm wondering, can we get creative with the tag team elements? Or is it just like, it's the same kind of tag team move over and over and over. It just depends on what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very curious about that. And I want to know more about that. But it was only 7 minutes of footage, and only thing they were really just showing was gameplay. They weren't discussing anything outside of her fighting Mr. Freeze, and Mr. Freeze looks so freaking cool. I loved his freeze gun, and he had a device called the Storm Maker, and I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to know more about why is he there, why is he using it, and there's just so much to dive into. But now that we kind of touched on some of the gameplay footage, and kind of like my expectation, because it got me really excited about seeing the Gotham game, let's touch on the story, some of the mechanics, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the actual trailer you got for the game. Okay, so now let's dive into the game itself, its mechanics, the things that I've learned from the past couple of days after the trailer was dropped and the gameplay footage was released, and then also the story for this game in general. And I'm a little excited about it because it seems very different. So let's talk about the story first. So first and foremost, they done killed Batman. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think he's dead, but I have my theories and we'll talk about them later. So you get to see that Batman is dead in this version. And from there, not just Batman, but also Jim Gordon, police commissioner, is also dead as well. And what I noticed is that when they mentioned that Jim Gordon was dead, there was an owl on top of his badge. And I was like, okay, okay. They were dropping some subtle hints, and we'll talk about that. And from there, you got to see Bruce, and he's like, "I'm sorry," and and goodbye, and he turns it off. And the Batcave has seemingly been destroyed, and you see how all the different Bat family members are taking this loss of Gotham's Knight himself, Batman. One thing that I thought which was pretty interesting was how uh, you see Dick Grayson, and for those of you who don't know, Dick Grayson was the first and the original Robin when he first appeared a long time ago in the Batman Detective Comics. From there, Robin eventually becomes the superhero Nightwing. He's a mega fan favorite. I mean, honestly, look at him. He is living, breathing eye candy for all of us. And he has been designated as like the sexiest of the Robins because he's like an acrobat and all that other good stuff. Now, from there, you get Barbara Gordon, Batgirl. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's been more than one Batgirl, but Barbara Gordon is the most popular of the Batgirls, and also she's the daughter to the police commissioner. Why wouldn't she be the most popular? Let's talk about let's for real. She's the most popular. But what I did notice in the trailer is that you see her wheelchair. And when you see her closing her eyes, realizing that, Batman is gone, the cool thing is that Barbara, meaning that when you see the wheelchair, it means that she was formerly Oracle. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Joker shoots Batgirl in the gut, which damages her spine. Now, in the comic books, he didn't know that she was Batgirl. He just knew she was Barbara Gordon, the police commissioner's daughter. That's all he really knew when he attacked her. And from then, Barbara Gordon had been Oracle for a number of years, and she wasn't Batgirl anymore, which is why there were other Batgirls in place of her. And there's only one that I can think of off the top of my head. But nevertheless, eventually she gets a surgery and she's able to walk and fight again. So that means this Batgirl is an older Batgirl and she's more skilled in her fighting ability. So I'm really excited to see if they touch on that storyline. Same thing for Dick Grayson, if they kind of touch on his storyline. And we'll touch a little bit more on Dick Grayson when I get to the third part of this video. Then next up, we have the second Robin, and for those of you who don't know, there was a second Robin by the name of Jason Todd who actually died, and he was the only Robin in the comic books to die. And this was back in the 80s, is because fans didn't really like Jason Todd as a Robin. He was a little bit trigger happy, and that's really displayed when he becomes the vigilante known as Red Hood. What happens is that Joker kills Jason Todd Robin, and locks him up, blows him up, and Batman sees it, and it emotionally scars Batman for years. And it's a part of the comic book storyline called Death in the Family. From there, Jason Todd is resurrected in the Lazarus pit with Ra's al Ghul. He comes back, he has a white streak in his hair, and he becomes the vigilante known as Red Hood. First he's a villain, but then eventually he becomes like an anti-hero. It's a whole bag of cats. And I'm wondering if they'll touch on his history as well. I'm pretty sure and they will touch on their history, but how much of it? I'm not sure. Then the last character that we see, and certainly not least, is Tim Drake Robin. Now, for those of you who don't know, he is the third Robin, but not the last Robin. The last Robin is actually Damian Wayne, Batman's son, who's not in the game, or maybe he is in the game, but he hasn't appeared yet. I'm not sure, and we'll touch on that later. So from there, Tim Drake Robin, who's my favorite, he's the most tech smart, like he's the most tech savvy of the Robins. And not only the most tech savvy, you see it in his gameplay. He can go stealth, he's very sneaky, and he's also an excellent detective. And those are things about Tim Drake as a Robin that I really liked and appreciated. And then from there, that's your cast and the overarching story. Now, a few things that I wanted to take note of with the story is that when Bruce Wayne said, hey, when I die, they're going to notice Batman is gone. You guys need to step up. And one thing that Patrick mentioned in the Batgirl footage is that they wanted the people to feel like there was no hope because Batman is like the crutch for the Bat family, or like the spine to the DC universe and to the Justice League. So you would move him off the board. It's like, what are these heroes are going to do, and who's going to rise, as these new knights of Gotham? And I really like that, and I like the fact that they went that direction, of such a bold direction, by removing Batman off of the board. Now, here's a few things that I also wanted to touch on when it came to the gameplay mechanics. One thing that they've talked about is that the game is going to have a lot of RPG elements. Now, for those of you who were watching the gameplay footage when Robin is sneaking up on the guy, if you notice above the guy's head, there's a number stating his level of danger, or how dangerous he is, or, if you played any RPG games, you have to level up to be able to fight certain villains or fight certain enemies in the game. So I'm wondering how that's going to really play out, because if you're leveling up your Batgirl, but your villain's also leveling up with her, I mean, how does that balance out? I guess you don't want it to make it a complete cakewalk for your characters, but at the same time, I'm just curious to see how that's going to play into this play style, an Arkham Gotham City Asylum play style with an RPG element. So I'm curious about that. Another thing that I noticed is at the bottom of the screen, it looked like Batgirl had a bar, and not just Batgirl, but Robin had a bar that felt up as you were fighting. So I'm wondering, does that release like special attacks or ultimate moves? I'm just curious to see how that's going to work, because it looks very interesting. Because if you saw it, Batgirl had a halo of bats swimming around her, and it looked like Tim Drake Robin had like these. It looked like these sparklers were falling with their fight. So I'm just curious, does he use some kind of like gizmo in her, because she's a hacker, and that's shown in her gameplay. But in his gameplay, he's more stealth. So I'm just wondering how these different elements are gonna kind of like work together for all of us to like really enjoy. And it seemed like each character has their own unique playing style, because it looks like Nightwing is very acrobatic with the way he was fighting, the way he was spinning and twirling, which I thought was really cool. Then you got to see Red Hood, and I think his play style may be the funnest, and now here's why: because he uses non-lethal bullets. What I'm wondering, because this is an RPG style game, will he have elemental effects with his bullets? Will he have shock bullets? Will he have fire bullets? Will he have freeze bullets? Will he have stun bullets? Of course, rubber bullets. To fight his enemies, because if they add that element on top of his playstyle, I think Red Hood may be one of the real standout characters in the entire group of characters that you get to play with. Though I'm not a Red Hood fan, but I'm seeing he may have some really cool elements to his playstyle, which I might actually pick and use. But anywho, another thing that I noticed is that, do each characters get their own bat cycle? Because it showed in the trailer that Batgirl as well as Red Hood had motorcycles that they were riding. And I'm wondering, do they get skins? Can we customize them? Along with the armor that you get to wear. So you get to customize the armor. Because if you notice in the trailer, Batgirl had a mask that had ears, but in the gameplay footage, she had the full cowl, like how she normally does in all her other iterations. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to look in this universe. And then with that also said, I'm wondering, will we get DLC characters like Batwoman? Will we get the other Batman that's like I believe he's like a black guy? Will we get Terry, the the futuristic Batman like skins. I'm just very curious to see how these different elements will play together. And another thing I noticed is that this game seems to have a two-player co-op, but not like an at-home two-player co-op. It's like literally an online two-player co-op. So I'm wondering, I mean, it sounds cool, but because everybody wants to go online, but see, not everybody knows people online. So I'm just curious to see how all these different elements are gonna either help or hinder the gameplay. So that's what I'm curious about. Again, I really like what I'm seeing and I like what I'm learning and I'm super excited about it. But this game doesn't come out until next year. So they have plenty of time to work on all of these different things to make sure that the game is the best version that it can be by the time we get it in 2021. So now that we talked a little bit about the story, the characters, and the game mechanics, now let's talk about the major storyline that they're featuring in this game, which is the Court of Owls and a little bit of the League of Assassins. So with that said, let's jump to the next section. Okay guys, the Court of Owls. Now for those of you who don't know, I am a huge fan of the Court of Owls storyline. I feel that it was one of Batman's best comics, in my opinion. And when this comic book came out, it was basically DC had rebooted all of their continuity. They did something called the New 52, which didn't do very well with a lot of people, and then from that came Rebirth. And the two writers was Scott Snyder and I believe Greg Capulin or Greg Rucka. I'm not sure who the other writer was, but they were working together and they wrote this comic book and they did a great job with it. Now, here's some things you need to take note of with this particular Batman storyline. Long story short, this Batman is a younger, newer Batman. And from there, he's a little bit, even though he knows Gotham City, what he doesn't realize is for hundreds of years, there's been these elite family members who have been the Court of Owls, watching over the city and controlling it, through the shadows. And they have these really cool characters called the Talons. Now, Talons are basically assassins who are basically zombies, but like living zombies, not like they're decaying, falling apart. Like they're actual like living zombies, but basically they're essentially henchmen for the Court of Owls. And you know, uh, Dick Grayson was actually going to be one of the Talons when he died. So it was very interesting. These story elements are in there, and then since they're using this storyline, will they put that in the game? So I'm very curious to see how all this will play out. Then on top of that, guys, there's also even a hint that there's another Wayne running around Gotham, which is what we discover at the end of this story. And one thing I really liked about this story is that this comic book really challenged Bruce Wayne as Batman. And Bruce Wayne's life was threatened. I mean, it's a whole story. And what I would highly recommend that you do is that I'm gonna put a link in the video description to this guy named Rob. It's Comics Explained. I'm gonna put the link to the Court of Owls storyline in the video description. Go watch it for yourself if you're not interested in reading the comics. But if you are interested in reading the comics and you want a good Batman story to jump into, that is the story I would highly recommend that you look into and that you give a try if you're wanting to dabble into the world of comic books. So that's what I'm wondering about the Court of Owls storyline. The other storyline I'm very interested in is how they're going to seed in the League of Assassins. For those of you who don't know, the League of Assassins are a bunch of men who follow the men and women who follow the lead of Ra's al Ghul, who is this guy that is able to resurrect himself or give himself youth again in these things called Lazarus pits. His daughter named Talia al Ghul. Basically, her and Batman fall in love with each other. They eventually have a child, which is Damian Wayne, and that's why if they're hinting that the the League of Assassins is going to be in this game, this storyline, how will this play out, and will we get a glimpse of, Batman's son? Will Damian pop up and be a part of this storyline? So that's what I'm kind of curious about. So now from here, I'm going to jump into some speculation. Like I said before, at the beginning of this video, I don't think that Batman is dead. I think he faked his death And because of the elements of the Court of Owls storyline, I'm thinking there might have been a body double and they made it look like it was Bruce Wayne, and then later on he pops out and reveals that he's still alive. And I think the entire Bat family knows it, but they're acting like they don't because of the threat of the owls. That's my thought process on it. But if they don't know, I want to know, how is he going to come back and which way is he going to come back? Because I think he's going to come back as a Talon or as a disguised member of the Court of Owls. And I think that when that happens, they're gonna bring everyone in. And I think the reason why they killed Jim Gordon, and I think Jim Gordon was a threat to the Owls, and that's why he was killed off in the story. And from there, Batman even says in the trailer, you can't trust the police because are the Owls controlling the police because they're controlling the city from the shadows. So that's a lot to even think about when you're looking at this game. And this is why I'm so excited about Gotham Knights, because if it's following the Court of Owls is a very good storyline. And again, I love the Bat family and I can't wait, and I hope we get DLC with this and so much more. But what I want to know, guys, is what are your thoughts and feelings on this game? Are you super excited about the Gotham Knights? Who's your favorite Gotham family member? Or if it ain't Batman, you don't want nothing to do with it. So let me know in the comment sections down below. And with all that said, guys, as I wrap up this video, if you enjoyed any of my content, consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel, leaving me a comment in the comment section down below, hitting the notification bell so you're always notified when I'm uploading videos just for you. And remember the golden rule of washing your hands, wearing gloves, social distance, choosing love over fear, being kind to each other, making good life choices. Remember, all Black lives matter. I'm going to see you on the flip side. So, bye. Wink. Now I wish I had one of those flash things so I can throw it and go and be like, I'm Batman. Bye, everybody.